Hello and welcome to Hours In, an exploration of various free games, demos, and more. Today we're doubling down on the upcoming Blackjack-based roguelike deck-building game, Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. Developed by Purple Moss Collectors and published by Yogscast Games. Now, what do I mean by upcoming? When this video goes live, Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers will still be around a day or so away since the game is to be released on August 8th, 2024. That begs the question, how have I been playing it at all, let alone for 7 hours? Well, technically I suppose I haven't. I've actually been playing the demo version, and so can you, if you like what you see here and want a head start. That's right. Over 7 hours of gameplay on a demo. It's just a really good demo, and I find myself loading it up again and again despite completing it a couple of times. But enough about the logistics, let's get into how the game works. Well, I did say earlier that it's a blackjack-based roguelike deck builder. That's a bit too simple of a description. In the game, we face off against various themed opponents, one after another, in what the game calls encounters. On the surface, these encounters do play like blackjack. You can either take a card, hit, or stop taking cards, stand. With the goal being to have all of your cards' numerical values add up to 21, blackjack. If neither player has 21, whoever has the higher total wins the round. If either player goes over 21, they bust and are considered to have a total of 0. Face cards are worth 10. Aces can either be 1 or 11. In this game, there's none of the minutia of blackjack like doubling down or splitting, so you don't really have to worry if you aren't the best blackjack player. What you do have to worry about, though, is your health. We start each run with 100 health points that do not get replenished between opponents. There are certain events and circumstances that can heal you, but we'll get to that later on. Whenever a round of blackjack is concluded, either both players stand or bust, the losing player's card total will be deducted from the winner's, then the difference will be applied to the loser as damage. In order to move forward in each encounter, we have to bring the opponent's health down to 0. If our health hits 0 at any point, our run is over and we must start anew, roguelike style. Because busting, going over 21 if you forgot, makes your card total equal 0, you probably want to avoid it at all costs to save your precious health. It really becomes a risk versus reward thing, where you have to sometimes lose a few rounds and take a small amount of damage to prevent busting and taking a 21 to the face. While we're on the subject of 21, it's time to talk about the suits. Unlike in blackjack, the suits in this game actually matter. Each suit has its own special effect that activates upon winning with a blackjack, 21. Hearts heal you, clubs deal bonus damage, spades grant shields, which are basically like temporary health, diamonds grant you chips, and nothings have no additional effect whatsoever. You can combine suits as well. For example, if you have an ace of hearts and a 10 of clubs and you win the round, your health will be healed by 11 points and your opponent will be dealt an additional 10 points of damage. At the start of each run, we pick a suit to make up our starter deck and sort of set our difficulty in that some suits are easier to play than others. After we defeat an opponent, we're granted some chips and a choice of cards to add to our deck. It's here that the game's depth really starts to shine through. In addition to each card having a special effect based on its suit, you might have noticed that there are strange cards that you definitely wouldn't find in a casino. They range from slightly odd, 13 of hearts, 3.14 of spades, -11 of diamonds, etc., all the way to the absolute insanity of not Yu-Gi-Oh's Dark Magician, not Pokemon's Charizard, Social Security card, etc. A lot of the fun of this game is just seeing what crazy cards come next. There's too many to possibly list here, and I really wouldn't want to take the joy of witnessing some of these cards for the first time away from you anyway. In addition to having a numerical value, a lot of these cards will have their own special abilities. Some create new cards, some destroy cards, and some jump to your hand for later use. You can hover over a card to see what additional abilities, if any, it has. Some actions, such as exploits or playing a card from your hand, cost advantage to perform. Advantage is typically gained from fulfilling certain conditions listed on your special chip that you get after your first encounter. The amount of advantage you have is displayed underneath your current chip count and does not persist between encounters. I'll go over some of the basic terms and concepts here, but there is really too much to possibly cover all of it. Burned and shredded. A burned card is essentially banished or removed from play for the rest of the encounter. It's added back to your deck after the encounter concludes. Shredded, a card is gone and destroyed forever, or at least for this run. Handy, adds a card to your hand that can be played later in the encounter. Note that playing a card from your hand in this way costs 1 advantage. Exploit, an additional effect that you can trigger while the card is on the table and you have enough advantage. Rounds up, adds +1 to the card's value, but only if doing so will cause you not to bust. Locking and unlocking. A card that is locked will persist between blackjack rounds until it is either unlocked or burned or shredded. Example, I lock an ace on my side of the table so that I start each hand with a total of 11. These aren't all of the standard effects, I just grabbed some of the more common ones I ran into to give a basic overview. In addition to more standard effects, there's also lots and lots of unique effects that cards can have. I really think the best way to learn is to play. Earlier, I spoke about your health points. There are some opportunities to heal. Using hearts and getting blackjack is the obvious one, though if you aren't playing hearts and haven't added many to your deck, it's a bit hard to pull off. There's also some cards that can heal you when played. The main way to heal, though, is through the Stay a Night or Loot Box events. What's an event? Well, you may have seen in some of the footage that after you defeat an opponent, you sometimes have a choice of who your next opponent is. Occasionally, instead of an enemy to fight, you'll get another event option, such as a card shop, a trader, a counterfeiter, or staying a night. When we select the Stay a Night option, we're given a choice of rooms that cost chips, ranging from cheap to expensive. Obviously, the expensive rooms heal a bit more HP. Like the cards, you can hover over each choice for more information. The loot box option is obviously a loot box that costs chips and gives you random cards and or healing. But what about the deck building though? You do pick what cards go into your deck, but not so much like other games where you can add and remove cards at will. Adding cards is easy enough, either from defeating opponents, trading for them, or buying them from shops. Make sure to save enough chips for healing though, but removing them is where it gets a bit difficult. You can remove the cards you don't want by trading them for better ones during the trader event, gambling them and losing in the coin toss event. Be careful though, you might win and get 3 of the card you didn't want. Or, the best option, drinking alcohol to remove a card of your choice during the Have a Drink event. That's pretty much it. Make sure you save enough chips to heal. Try and keep your deck stacked with 10s and 11s. Don't be afraid to take small hits to prevent busting. And maybe start with hearts or clubs for your first playthrough. As I'm sure you can guess by now, I love what I've seen in this game. It's not every day that a demo sucks me in for over 7 hours. I think Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers is going to be a day 1 buy for me. I really just can't think of a bad thing to say about it, honestly. Just go and play it. Thank you so much for watching. I know this one is a bit different from my coverage of the games that go free on the Epic Store every week, but I've just had so much fun with this game that I felt inspired to make a video talking about it. Be sure to keep an eye out for my video about the full game, as well as some more free Epic games as usual, and maybe some more demos too. You've been watching Hours In.